The 15th of January, Rabbi Furst, Pierke, Avos.
Okay, good morning again. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst, like we mentioned. Here in Yeshiva here in Shalom Care of Zoom, our first year, Pirkei Avos. We're finishing up our document, Maharam Prague, his explanation of the why Pirkei Avos concludes with the statement, Kol ma shebarach HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamo lo bar ela lekavodo. All that the Kadosh Baruch Hu has created in his world has been only created for the sake of his glory. Okay, again, we did this second paragraph to the end before, but let's just go through it again, because it's a subtle concept he's trying to communicate over here. So let's do these last two paragraphs. Beginning right there.
Nimtza ki his chalis
Ki hatachlis.
hatachlis bibrias olam lichvodo. So we find that since the purpose of the creation of the world is for his honor, now we find that the purpose of the creation of the world is for his honor.
Right.
Umipnei shehi tachlis asher bara hu yisparach haolam hu lichvodo. Because the purpose that Hashem created the world is for his honor. Ume'ata efshar lomar sheyeh asher bo hatzarich haratzon Hashem Yisbarach Rak Zaman Hamashiach. And now it's impossible to say that it is that that his desire, the desire of Hashem, may he be blessed, is only for the time of Mashiach.
Since you have this statement that Kol ma shebarach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything that Hashem has created is for his honor, right? You cannot say that the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is only for the Zman of Mashiach. No, there's every moment that exists is according to the Ratzon and the will and the desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's the time of Mashiach, and even though that'll be the time that's going to be the greatest glory given and acknowledged to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is in fact the tachlis of the world, but you can't say that is not the only thing that Hashem desires, right? Everything that Hashem has created is for his glory.
He as Ne'emar, as it is said in Zachariah, V'yeh Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad, and Hashem will be king over all of the earth, and that day Hashem will be one and his name will be one. That seems to be the opposite of what he wants to say. It's saying it's not only for the time of Mashiach, like it says in the time of Mashiach.
No, so you would think because this is stable, Hashem, right, will rule all kol haaretz. B'yom hu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad, right?
Right.
You would think that is the exclusive tachlis purpose of Brias Olam, Zman Mashiach, when these statements will become true. He says, Lo kamo sha'ata, not like it is now. Now that's not the case right now, right? So that's not the case. That we understand that that's not the case right now. So does that mean that now is not part of the desired wishes and glory and honor due to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? No, you can't say that. Well, even though you might be misled to think that, right? But uh you shouldn't be misled to think that.
I see. Va'az yiyeh kol asher bara Hashem yisbarach hu hakol lichvodo. That this it is that all that Hashem has created, it is all for His honor. V'hu imloch al hakol, and He reigns over everything. V'chein amar Rabbi Yochanan v'parek v'perach chalak.
The Perik Chelek Sanhedrin. I think that's the eighth. That's the eighth Perik in Sanhedrin.
Okay, and thus it is stated by Rabbi Yochanan in Perich Chalak in Sanhedrin, Lo Avra Alma Ella Le Mashiach V'hayinu Kamo She Amarnu. He did not create. He only created the Mashiach that it would be like He said.
That when it says in Rabbi Yochanan in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Lo bara olamo ela leMashiach, right? Hainu kimosha amoranu, meaning it's lo bara olama ela leMashiach. The world was only created for Mashiach. Hainu kim amoranu. This is as we have been speaking about, meaning there's a question here, right? There's a question here that if in fact the true glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be acknowledged until the time of Mashiach, so you might mistakenly think that the purpose of the world is for Mashiach, and there's no other purpose to the world before that, right? But that we're saying is not true. However, we see Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo bara olamo olma ella Mashiach. The whole world was only created for Mashiach. So how we have to understand what the statement means.
Okay. So we have a contradiction.
There seems to be a contradiction here, yeah. Because Rabbi Yochanan is saying, Lo bara olama alma elul Mashiach. Oh, so that seems to be that what's the plan and purpose and tachlis of the world for Mashiach. But we have to understand what that means.
Well, why does it say v'chein? Therefore, therefore he said that the world was only created for Mashiach. What's the therefore doing in there?
That could be going on the EF Shal Omer Shia Asher Ratzon Shal Rak Lizman Mashiach. V'chein Rak Lizman Mashiach. V'chein, you see this? This is indicated. This statement is indicated by the words of Rabbi Yochanan.
Mm-hmm. I'm not getting it.
So again, it begins that Nimsa Ki Tachlis Habriya Olamo Lekavodo. We see that the intentional purpose of the creation is for Kadosh Baruch's cover. Now, the Tachlis Asher Bara Baruch Olamo Lekavodo, and since the purpose of the creation that Hashem brought about the world was for His honor, right? For His honor. Umi'ata I Efshar LaOmer Jasher Baratzon Hashem Yisbarach Rak B'Zman Mashiach. And therefore, if that's the case, it's impossible to say that the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is only for the time of Mashiach. Because why? Because at that time, Az Nemar, then it's going to be said, Hashem Melech Al Kol Haaretz V'Yom Hu Yiyeh Na'echad Shmo Echad. V'lo K'mo Ata, and not like it is now. Now we don't see it. So what does that mean? That we don't see that, and we don't acknowledge that, and we don't experience that Hashem is Melech Kol Haaretz, and we don't see and acknowledge, yeah, Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad.
Right.
So as Hayat, I think this is the main point we have to understand. This statement over here, that as Yekol Asher Bara Hashem Yisborach Hakol Kavodo, everything that has been created, Hakol, everything is for His honor. That it's part of the honor of the Kadosh Baruch Hu that this time exists, that He is not acknowledged. He's not acknowledged as Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. In this time when that is not acknowledged, right? So that is also part of His kavod, that at the time when it will be acknowledged, right? Then it will be understood that everything has been created for His kavod. If it's meaning, if everything was a status quo of Yemosa Mashiach from the very beginning of time to the very end of time, so that itself would not be a true covenant for a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Why not?
The concept that that through darkness a person sees light is something which is spoken about many times. Many times you can't see the true reality of things unless you see the opposite. That if everything is in a state of perfection, right? You don't realize the 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 perfection itself. There's a lack of perfection if something's always perfect. If something's going to be always perfect, that's a lack of perfection in itself. Why? Because if you don't have anything to contrast perfection with, so you're not aware of the perfection.
Okay. So the fact that the Mashiach is coming, it gives us a perspective. Um, but but we don't know what Mashiach is. So how does that help?
So it's the fact that we don't have the situation of Mashiach right now is in itself a honor and a glory to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because in the end, when Hashem will be Echad B'Shmo Echad, right, the understanding of that true oneness and that true perfection will be understood. But before that, you wouldn't have understood it.
So right now we don't understand it.
Right? We don't. Let's put it this: we don't experience it. We don't experience it, and since we don't experience it, we're lacking understanding. Correct.
So we can't understand or experience right now the fact that everything is for Hashem's honor.
Right, because we're in the midst of things which are not in a state of perfection. Right? If things were in the state of perfection continually, we also wouldn't be able to understand it and experience it.
Wouldn't the fact, sorry, wouldn't the fact that we're struggling to find out these things and to do well and struggling against that which we find unacceptable, isn't that an honor for Hashem?
That's the lesson.
Excuse me.
This lesson we learned many different times, that the perfection that we have to gain through the struggle, right? Because there's lack of perfection in the world, right? Because there's evil in the world, because there's lack of honor and glory to a Kadosh Baruch in the world. So those people who are struggling to live with the fact that Hashem is the one and only God, Hashem is Echad and Shemo Echad, even though it's not acknowledged by all peoples, but those of us who do acknowledge it, right? We, through struggling through this situation, we reach a higher understanding of the true perfection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Mm-hmm. Right. And this growing closer and closer should give Hashem satisfaction and feel
That's right. That's right. When those of us struggle to maintain our amun in batachan, we struggle to be mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we struggle to give glory to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. even though the world is not interested in those things and doesn't acknowledge those things. So that certainly gives the Kadosh Baruch Hu a great amount of nachas ruach, pleasure and desire of a fulfillment.
Well, that in itself is a step along the way. We can't jump. We have to take small steps, and doing that, struggling for Hashem, to do what we can for Hashem is a step, an essential step, because it sort of helps us to make the next step and so forth until we, and Hashem, get there, if we ever do.
Right. That we'll have to support what you're saying. Right. In a couple of weeks in Parshas B'Shalach, for the Yam Suf, we say this every morning at the end of Pezukei Zimra before we start the Shir Shoyam. Aminu b'Hashem Moshe Avdo. They Klal Yisrael believed in Hashem and in Moshe, his servant. So there was only at the time of the Yam Suf. I mean, you would think that after the 10 plagues that devastated Egypt and the taking us out of Egypt, we would think that we already believe in Hashem and we believe in Moshe, but no. When did we finally believe in Hashem and Moshe Avdo? At the Yam Suf, right? And at the verge of jumping into the Yam Suf, we were hardly on a level of perfection, right? It was a question of life and death. But at that point, because of what happened, that led us to the full absolute belief in Kadosh Baruch Hu and in Moshe, which before that was not possible. So very similarly, all that's leading up to the time of Mashiach, right? Even though there's apparently a great deal of lack of perfection, nevertheless, it's going to ultimately result in that the statement, "B'yomo hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad." Let's see the last paragraph, and we'll see how he summarizes.
Okay, but I have a question now that was raised in my mind as you were talking, Rabbi. Previous days, we've been saying that everything in the world is for Hashem's honor, and I've asked you a couple times. I've given you examples of things that didn't seem to be for Hashem's honor, and you answered and gave me some metaphors for understanding that they are for Hashem's honor. But now it seems like we're saying, well, actually, right now everything's not for Hashem's honor. It's in the time of Mashiach. So what am I not understanding correctly here? Is it now everything is perfect? We just don't know it? Or is it that it's not perfect now, it's going to be perfect?
I think the first statement is more closer to the way I understand things. Everything really is perfect now, but we don't really perceive it as perfect. Meaning in our perceptions, we don't really perceive it as perfect, but in fact it is perfect, and we won't really know that perfection until the time of Mashiach.
So when Mashiach comes, then we're going to be able to see by contrast the perfection that exists now.
Right.
Contrast to what?
Excuse me, Roy?
Contrast to what?
No, in contrast, that things are. What was the other um, choice that you had, Lou? You want to phrase it the way you phrased it?
I was thinking that the contrast between the world as it will exist, Emitz Hashem, in the time of Mashiach, and the world as it exists now. Because before we were saying that you can't understand perfection unless you have something to compare it to.
Right. Since now we're living under the um let's call it like this. We're living under a facade of lack of perfection. Really, everything in truth is absolutely perfect. Okay, everything is absolutely perfect. Okay, but there's a facade of imperfection. The time of Mashiach, there's going to be that facade is going to be removed, and everything's going to be seen to be perfect. Right.
So everything will be seen to be perfect at that time and in retrospect in the past. In other words, now, what we're experiencing now, from that future perspective, we'll see that now is perfect also.
Right. 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 And that's gonna be everything, all the things that we can't understand, why there should be this, why there should be that, right? How could these things exist? How could these things be let to happen? All these things, all these questions that we have. There was I think it was a Talmud of the Rambam, if I'm not mistaken, that the Rambam, uh, one of his Talmidim was about to die, so the Rambam wrote him a a certain letter, and he said to him, "This letter will allow you to go into a special place in Shemayim where all questions are answered." Right. So I want you to take this letter when you get to Shemayim, right? And you'll show them this letter, and they'll let you into that special place in Shemayim where all questions are answered. Right. And you come to me afterwards, and you tell me all the answers I need to know. So the Talmud died, and he went to Shemayim. So a certain amount of time later, he came back, and so the Rambam said to him, "Okay, tell me what did you learn when you went to that special place where all questions are answered?" So he said, I did what you said. I went to Shemayim. I showed them the letter, and they allowed me into this room, and the answer to your question is, when you get to that room, you realize there are no questions. There are no questions. There are no questions, there are no answers. It's a complete state of perfection. See, we don't realize, what does it mean, Hashem Echad, Hashem Echad? That everything is Hashem, everything is Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu by essence is perfect. Hashem Echad. Right? We say this once we say in Kriyishma Hashem Echad, and then Yom Alu Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, everything. And what does it mean Shemo Echad? What does it mean Shemo? His name is Echad, meaning everything that's attributed to Kadosh Baruch Hu is Echad. All those things that we attribute, everything, in fact, everything that is in existence is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So we can't see that now. We don't experience that now. We can even hardly recognize it now. We can hardly even talk about it now. But at the time when everything will be eventually absolutely revealed that everything is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so in that special place in Shemayim where all questions are answered, the answer to that is that there's no questions at all. It's all a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So and at the time of Mashiach, when that will exist, right? So it really is the same thing. But what the moral is telling us is don't think that everything that is occurring and up until the time when that situation exists of Mashiach. Don't think that's not for his kavod either. No, all these things that are occurring are for his kavod as well. Okay. Fine. I'll tell you that. Well, we can't. It's not worth rushing through this next final paragraph. So we will try it tomorrow. It's Hashem.
Okay, sorry that I delayed you.
No. It's okay. I mean, it's helpful for me to clarify it because it's just if you read the words, one statement is right. You can't say that everything is just for Mashiach. And here you see Rabbi Yochanan said, "Is everything is for Mashiach?" So what's that supposed to mean? It's you're supposed to start asking some questions around here. So okay, Bez Hashem, we'll try and work it out and get it more clear tomorrow as well, Mitzvah Hashem.
Thank
And good. Roy, you should have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank
And I
you.
hope to see you tomorrow.
Amen.
And we'll be starting the Mishnah Berurah shortly, Mitzvah Hashem.
Okay. See you, Maya. Bye.
Okay, take
Thank
care,
you.
Roy. Have a
See you
good day.
also.
Bye. Regards to your wife.
Thank you.
you. I see you.